Stand by. All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bates.
Here.
Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Morris.
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
Very good. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes from February 9th, 2023.
I'll make that motion, Hardy.
Support Walker.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Minutes are approved. Changes to the agenda. There'll be one that I'm aware of. There's just presenter, says Chairman Walker. That'll be actually myself, Chairman Beggs, for the committee. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, so we want to make a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, Morse.
I'll second, Hardy.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Agenda approved. Any public comment for Mr. Hissa?
If I may, 5 minutes, right?
Yes.
Please start the timer. I want to thank you all. The last time I was here, I asked you to look at the flag. I still believe in it. And as a public servant, I think we have a tough job. I thought today, a year ago, I asked you were going to be making a tough decision on another subject at the dam out there, and I didn't know how you could make the decision without the details, so I've had to take that same advice in my position as supervisor. Who is Crystal Township? This is a soil map that I put together with soil conservation. The red orange is prime, and the yellow is no good soil. What does that really mean to you guys? In the future, we're going to have to make some decisions on a project I started in September by sending a letter to the top 12 farmers in the township. And of course, it's harvest time, so I got one response, and that was from Mrs. Schaefer, very kind. But since then, I've been able to talk to every single one of those farmers. And I've highlighted them on this map, and my request was, please give me your opinion of what we need in the township. Roads, roads, roads. I've met with every one of them and their families. I'm happy to say that there's multiple generations out there, and we've selected 5 roads that are important to the life of Crystal Township. What is the life of Crystal Township? 12,100 acres are being farmed, 3,428 semi-loads of product, 214,200,000 pounds of products annually. And I think the #1 resource in this county is agriculture, isn't it? So I've asked the road commission last year to hire a grant writer because we can't afford the roads in our township. They refused it. I asked them again this year, got nowhere. So I've gotten the road commission management to go out and look at Madison Road. That's the first one. It serves your park and it serves the transfer station. They had to put it in 4-wheel drive. It was so bad. So they came back with a proposal. It's about $111,000. And in this, if you want a copy of it later, I'm going to ask for a little bit of money if you can afford it. What I've done is in this map, selected the roads that the farmers asked to have done in sequence and asked them to give me bids. That won't happen. They gave me 1 bid so far, so I've gone to outside contractors. It's going to be about $5 million to fix the roads and bring what I call the Scottville Road. If you drive south out of Scottville down to Jackson Road, wear your seatbelt and a helmet. It's ugly. Tried to drive that with a semi. So $5 million is what it's going to take. I'm working very, very hard. I wanted you guys to know what's going on in Crystal Township. We've done a great job with our transfer station. The citizens were extremely gracious. We went from $35 a month. Is that my warning light?
Sure.
And they took the challenge. We showed them the spreadsheets and the costs and the income. We raised our price from $35 a year to $270. Everybody was uncomfortable with it, but said, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. I know, looking at you guys' notes and stuff that you have to deal with, you deal with a lot of stuff. And do you. So, congratulations. That's just a little history on what's going on in Crystal. We're going to fix the roads. We hope to get somewhere with the other conversation, and right now solar farms are just a massive burden on my time. We spent 2.5 hours at the Planning Commission. There's a lot going on with solar. I don't think it's good for our township. We have successful farmers, and they've agreed that they want to be continuing as farmers, and I hope this information helps you make decisions in the future. Any questions in 1 minute?
Alright.
Yep.
Can we get a copy of that? Is that, or can I take a picture of?
You can get a copy. I have another one, and I can
Okay.
get copies made,
Okay.
whatever you'd like.
A picture would work too.
I did share with the farmers. That was awesome. They were reluctant to talk to me. They didn't know if I worked for the FBI, the CIA, or IRS. So until just a month ago, they didn't want to share. And they didn't want me to share with their family members what they're up to. I can tell you that some of them have invested millions, and they are continuing to invest, and every one of those 7 farmers on there is going forward with a very successful business. They're not going away. I'm ecstatic about that. And they finally have broken down and said, okay, here's our numbers, here's what we're doing, and yeah, we'll help you. So I represent them.
Mr. Erickson?
And Lee, could you qualify for everyone the road that we're talking about between 120th and the bar, the tavern?
Madison Road?
Madison Road, it's the one that runs past the park, and gravel is our biggest problem.
We can't get gravel, certified gravel in the county apparently. I was shocked when I went to the road commission. They didn't know that I had done this research, so the 2 members of the management there, they said, why should we pay for roads for farmers? We're not gonna do that. So I whipped out my little survey and said, well, here's a couple 100 million pounds of reasons why we should. I think that's what supports this county. So they were kind enough to jump up and start taking copies, and an hour and a half later we have a plan put together. But getting good product on there is difficult. Once they got out there and looked at Madison Road, they agreed that it's a wagon trail that's been graded. And it serves the park and it serves our transfer station. So they would prefer to put a foot of sand in it and then put true 22A on it and turn it into a real road with ditches. It's way above our budget. So I said, what can we do? And they said, well, we can do what they call turnpiking, which is you bring a grader in, roll the sand up from the ditches, put it in the road, compact it, and put a good gravel on it. And I insisted that we don't use something out of Bank Run, we use true MDOT quality gravel. It's expensive, and it's not going to get any cheaper.
And it's not available in our county.
Not that I'm aware of. I've done some research on it, and it's difficult. We talked about slag originally, but there's a real problem with dust, and I haven't found a dust control product yet that will work there. It's affordable, it's available. I said, can we use limestone? And the county said, absolutely not, it's too hard. It's like, that doesn't seem like a difficult thing, so I don't have the answer to that. I was shocked, and I don't know, was there a disconnect from the road commission to Crystal at one time? I mean, it seems like there's a
There's a lot of disconnect.
okay. I was shocked at the response. They said, well, they're rich people, they can just pay for it. Yeah, but they're also investing to go out and buy a new tractor. Do you guys know the big fancy building on the corner of 126th and Monroe? Nice looking building. That's a pea harvester building. He has 6 of those in there. I just met Amando, and he was a little worried that I was also with the some department. But I got a tour of a pea harvester, $1.2 million for their new one. Amazing what they're investing for farming in this county. It blows me away. Do you guys need that for copies?
I took pictures. Thanks.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Lee,
Yes.
you just reaffirmed what a good friend of mine that had a MDOT certified gravel pit and processing, that he used to always call it Michigan Gold.
True statement. Is he close?
Yes,
Man,
we can talk.
all right. Thank you. Any advice? I could use it. Where can we find $5 million in Crystal? I'm serious about that. Gary, I know you're awesome at it.
I'll just write a check.
That's what I want. Mr. Hardy.
I don't think so.
Okay. What I've asked for from the county is the road to be widened and brought to MDOT specs all the way from the Scottville Road, so it's safe. There are, Jesse Peterson, if you know him, he drives 10 miles out of the way to access Crystal because the road is so bad. One of the owners told me that they lost a semi-trailer coming down that same road. It's just horrible. And we can fix it. It's just not going to be easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right. Hearing none, Ms. Becker, consideration to approve Mason County or Mason Oceana 911 board recommendation.
Yes, thank you. We received a request from Mr. Ray Hassel, Director of 911, upon approval of their Mason Oceana 911 board to continue the annual surcharge for Oceana County at $2.09, which has historically been the cost. And this is an annual submission to the state of Michigan. So they're asking for final board approval and submission to the state.
Yeah, it looks like this is not a change from our previous surcharge, so it's
Correct. It looks like it's been this amount for a couple of decades,
Yep,
actually.
okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Hardy?
That was approved at the February 15th by the 911 Mason Oceana board
Okay.
meeting.
Mhm.
And, you know, this has to be approved by the board here.
Yep. Any other discussion? All right, with that, any department heads, any reports, anything to tell us about?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Sheriff.
The jail's busy. Our population isn't over the top right now. We're in the 40s right now, so the jail, the population's reasonable. But we've got some real, some tough customers that are causing some odd places for us to maintain those. But the road guys are busy. We've had a lot of. We've had several traffic incidents go on. We've had a couple of foot pursuits go on. Those guys are spending time with us now. We do have a couple of new employees coming on, so we're grateful for that. We've got a young man by the last name of Ilbrink. He's going to be starting on the road patrol in next week. Is that right, Ryan? 17th. Yep. He comes to us from Menominee, so Mr. Walker, you probably know him.
Yeah, Delta County.
Yeah.
Delta County.
Yep. We're really looking forward to having him come with us. I say young man, but he's 30 years old. He's got he's an EMT, so he's got some good medical experience he brings with him as well. So we're excited about him starting. We've also got a young lady who is going to be starting in corrections a week or so after that. She has 17 years of experience in the Department of Corrections, so she's a well-versed corrections officer, and she's given us some really good interviews, and we're excited about having her name is Justin
Signanovich?
we call her Swanee, but it's
Her name's Swanee.
yeah. Anyway, so we're excited about getting some of our positions filled and getting some relief for our current staff and getting those people on the up and running before summer gets here.
What openings does that leave you with?
So the corrections will be full at that point,
Great.
and we still have openings on the road.
How many on the road?
Is it 2, Ryan?
One currently, then Golden Township.
Then Golden.
Okay.
And then retirements come.
Yes. So as
More on the horizon.
as we're told in August, we're going to have some turnover from some of our seasoned guys.
Okay.
Or midsummer, late summer.
Yep. Okay.
So, any questions for me?
Sir.
When will we be revisiting the new jail?
So, I've had some nice conversations with the clerk's office about when that might go best on the ballot, and I didn't want to have that be the only issue on the ballot to have a special election. I wasn't interested in paying for a special election for one issue. I'm sure you guys can agree with that. But then my own situation is going to come into play, and I don't think that would go really well, having to tried to get myself reelected and to have a jail on the same ballot as well. So I'm afraid this can's getting kicked down the road just a little bit. Not that it's being forgotten about or ignored, but it's just going to it's going to be down the road just a little bit. In the meantime, the undersheriff and lieutenant have been doing some fixes to some of the existing porcelain fixtures in the jail that we were trying to get away from, that have continued to leak and cause us issues and safety issues, etc. So we're unfortunately having to put some money into that, but it's just the cost of doing business in the jail.
And we're full, and we still have 800 or 900 outstanding warrants.
Well, we're in the 40s, so we're not full right now.
We're not full.
So I've been encouraging the guys to go serve warrants and go fill us up a little bit more. We don't need to be boiling over the top, but we could definitely be in the 50s and touching the 60s without a problem. It's been fortunate that we've been down a little bit. That has given us an opportunity to perform some maintenance on some of these cells where we've got porcelain fixtures that are
Coming out.
Yes, coming apart. So we've had some chance to perform some maintenance.
Any other questions for the sheriff?
Are you, when possible, are you changing those to stainless?
We're trying to. It's
I know they're expensive.
It's
but
extremely expensive. Yes.
But, you know,
we have to have it. We
Yes,
we can't be proceeding back to porcelain. So. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Maloney.
Morning. Lots of irons in the fire, but there are a few things I thought you guys will be brought up to speed on. Mason County is still looking for an emergency manager. Rumor has it they've had minimal applications for that, but the time it's closed, so we'll know more coming up soon. We're still working with Consumers Energy, Mason County, and the state on a functional exercise for Langton Pump Storage, which is mandated by the Energy Commission. That'll be going on September 29th, I believe is what the scheduled date is, so we'll work with that because it does affect our northern part of our county with inundation and access. Also, from a fire department standpoint, all 7 fire departments have signed an agreement to be part of MABUS, which is the Michigan Automatic Aid Box Alarm System, which is a program that once you're part of that program, you have to qualify for it. You can get resources for free from anywhere in the state, and that includes hazmat. So one of the things I found when I came here, we've had no guarantee of hazmat response in Oceana County, even though we have lots of it. So we looked at a contract with Muskegon Hazmat, and when we looked at it, it really was going to be each township would have to have that contract, not the county. So all fire departments got together, and they are going together as one entity to join MABUS. Individually, they didn't qualify, but together as a larger resource they are. All the townships signed off on that as of last night, and that's great because it doesn't cost anybody anything. And so what happens now is they will become part of MABUS, and that will guarantee a hazmat response, not only from Grand Rapids and Muskegon, but from anywhere in the state, but also gives us access to Michigan Task Force 1, any technical rescue. Those things are all included in MABUS as them being a member. So that's a huge cost savings to us as a county, and now we'll have guaranteed hazmat response. So that was a big one. The other issue that's kind of come up, and I'm going to need some advice from you guys in the future here. There's only one fire department in the county that does not provide medical first response, and that is Hart Fire Department. They did a study on it last year looking at the cost effect of how many runs would increase in their areas of coverage, which includes Golden Township, and they realized they don't have the manpower to handle that. But therefore, you're only getting an ambulance response in those response areas. They are working with Pentwater Fire to do a joint agreement to have Pentwater, who is doing very well, cover those medical calls in this area as a joint partnership. How it would change here is it means that calls going, medical first response going on in Hart Fire Department's area would be responded to through an agreement with Pentwater Fire, and Pentwater Fire would then bill us as they do for their own areas, and they do it in Weir Township already, so they already cover multiple townships on that. But I just got to make sure, and I don't know who to ask, was Mr. Walker, making sure we have money in that account to cover what Hart Township has not been spending. It's no extra calls, it's the same call volume that we looked at, but I don't know where those numbers exist, so if someone in the future can get me those numbers just to make sure, because I can go back to them and say, hey, there's no money for this. You guys can do whatever you want, but there's no money. Or yes, we have the money to cover Hart Township and Golden Township's first response calls as we do for the rest of the county.
I guess I'll comment on that. My first thought is we'll certainly look at that again. I think at one point in the recent past we did approve Hart to run medicals, and then they decided it wasn't something that was going to work. So I know we've made a look at that at once in the last year or so, and determined that likely money was there to cover. But yeah, that's a good heads up. I think that's something we can look at and verify that that's still the case, and then go from there.
I think that if another one comes on, and I totally concur with what you said, I think the other thing that we're gonna have to look at is priority threes.
Yeah.
You know, when we go out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if there's only so much money there, we are probably gonna be over budget on that, in that line item this year already.
Right.
But it's a necessary thing, but we may have to look at priority threes.
Yeah.
You know, and the local departments may have to pick up a little bit on the priority threes themselves as they're going on it.
I've been advising them that, it is their area, it is their authority of jurisdiction. If they want better service, it's their responsibility to pay for it. However, I also am making sure that do not get dependent on others to pay your bills, and they're understanding that.
And Troy, you and I have had this discussion in the past about priority threes also, same thing.
Absolutely. So I don't know if they determined whether they're going to do all the priorities or just priority 1s and 2s. There is a study that Life did that showed that majority, and don't quote me on it, it's like over 60% of priority 2s result in transport. So those are questionable whether priority 2s are really priority 1s. So
It's more the lift assist.
right. And so anyways, those are the things they're discussing, and they have invited me to sit with the chiefs to try to look at how they could do a legal agreement to be able to share those services. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up and make sure we're fitting in within the fiscal responsibility. Any questions? Thank you.
Very good. Any other department heads? All right, public comment. Any public comment? Hearing none, we will adjourn courts and public safety.
Okay, moving on. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Administration Committee. May we have a roll call?
Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Banks.
Here.
Mr. Morris.
Here.
Mr. Erickson.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
I'd ask for approval of the meeting minutes from February 9th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Begst,
Support.
support by Walker. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I'd like to make 2 additions if possible. The Great Lakes Energy and Charter, well, Great Lakes Energy really, is asked for in-kind types of support for a grant. So for a broadband grant, that's March 14th is the deadline. So I'd like to propose that or bring that up.
All right.
But I also would like to talk about formalizing our broadband work group that's been working already for a month or a year, and there's some advantages to formalizing the work group. So those 2 things, please.
All right, Mr. Morris, I'll put that right after how about right after Richard Raffaelli?
Sounds
Which would
good.
be the second item.
Okay.
All right.
I have one change too.
Right.
This morning I realize the remonumentation agreements just referenced our previous meeting that was canceled, so the agreements for Mr. Walker to sign have been updated with today's date.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, and I think there was an issue with the one that
And the
had
signature
Alex signing
name.
both.
Yes. So we should be all set.
Okay. All right. We have approval of the modified agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Beggs, second by Morris. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same. Any public comment at this time for Finance and Administration? Hearing none, we will move on. I don't think Mr. Raffaelli is here. Request for reduction in the building, electrical, plumbing, and mechanical, and drain permit fees. I guess we could open that up to discussion
If I may,
yes.
so I have been working on a policy. I have a skeleton of it, you know, so it's not just about this one project. So, you know, if we have other requests coming in, it's not done yet for me to share with you yet, but it's close. So,
Okay.
Yeah, just FYI.
Are we in discussion about this at this time?
Yes.
May I?
Please.
I understand the concept behind this, being this project, but I want to point out a few things, and if anybody in the back can't hear me, just raise your hand. I want to point out a few things that I'm concerned about. We had we lost one of our inspectors recently, and we know that there are over 300 plumbing permits that are out there that have to be completed, let alone all of the mechanical permits that are out there that have to be completed. And I'm going to say at the same time that when we hire a new mechanical and plumbing inspector, we may find that we have to hire two different people, because people in the trades don't do both HVAC and plumbing anymore. It used to be shops they did HVAC and they did electrical or plumbing, but they're split now. They don't do them anymore, so we're gonna have a real tough time finding one inspector to do each one of those. So we may have to hire two inspectors. The way we are set up right now, the inspectors are paid at the time the permit is pulled. I can tell you conservatively, some of the inspections the permits are pulled for, those jobs are going to take 4 and 5 years to complete. We are going to have to pay a new inspector to come in and do all of those. And I've tried to look at numbers. I would not be surprised if that number is going to be 6 figures that we're going to have to pay. That being said, before we hire any new inspectors, I'm going to recommend to this board that the inspectors who are contractors be paid 50% at the time the permit is pulled, and 50% at the time the final inspection is done. That we're not going to pay those fees all up front anymore. You know, this is very unfortunate that this happened, but in the past, if an inspector has been doing them and he has retired, he's paid the next inspector to finish them. I think we need to clear that up, and it's just something for us to think about, you know, moving forward. We need to clear that up. So we have a liability there. Tracy told me that she called several counties to get a copy of their policy on waivers of permits or any portion of the fees, and every single county said, we do not allow that. Why are you getting into doing that? You are opening up the floodgates, is what she got from everybody. I'm very thankful that this project is going, this one we're talking about. There's a big need for it. But we have to be careful. What do we do as a board if Habitat for Humanity starts doing houses in Oceana County, are we gonna waive a percentage of the permit fee for Habitat for Humanity? What do we do if there's going to be a veterans housing built in this county at some time? They're building one in Muskegon County right now. What do we do? Do we waive those permit fees or a portion of the permit fees? Once we start, where do we stop? I think we need to look at this not only from a personal standpoint, we need to look at this from a business standpoint. And the more I think about it, I think of how many times different groups, the apartment complex over across from the airplane, when that was a senior, they asked for reductions in permits. There's been other ones that have asked for reductions in permits. You know, the research center asked for reductions and cooperation on permits when we did that. You know, I think we really have to look at this from a business standpoint. And we have money in that fund now. That fund is doing very well. But I'm having a lot of difficulty waiving fees for anything. We went to contract inspectors at the level because we wanted to keep our inspectors in-house. We did not want the state of Michigan to have inspectors come in and do it. Most contractors or people who have built and worked in the contractor field aren't real fond of having state inspectors come in and do their inspections on their work. It's difficult to get them here. I've dealt with state inspectors when I built in the UP, you know, a summer home. It's difficult. You are nothing but a number. You know, our inspectors, I'll tell you right now, have helped me on things that were very minor, and they've worked with everybody. If we have state inspectors that are not gonna do that, they're gonna charge you another $200 fee to come back again after you change one small thing. That's the last thing that I wanna see happen, is go to the state inspectors. But we have to keep it solvent. The inspector's office was not solvent until we went with contract inspectors. We could not do it paying wages and everything, we haven't done. And I personally, the more I think about it, I'm having trouble waiving these fees from a business standpoint. And I think all of you realize that I did outside sales for years. I've also built 7 homes in Oceana County. And I paid my fees when I did those. And I think everybody else who has built, if they're building on the budget, they're still paying their fees. And I'm having problems with this.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
So I totally, I know we got to be mindful of our financial house, of course. Have they done it in the past? Yeah, it sounds like not. But I mean, times are different. I mean, we need affordable housing is probably worse than we've ever needed in the past. I mean, everywhere does. So that's where I feel like we may have to conduct ourselves a little bit differently as far as you know, whether or not to approve something, these waivers. I also, what's key is, I agree, we got to keep an eye on our financial house. So that's why in the policy it would be there's a certain floor as to how far our fund balance can be. If it gets down to the 200, I haven't figured out the exact number yet, but if it gets down to a certain range, then it's just automatic no, it's not gonna happen. Or, you know, we're not gonna do one house project. It would have to be at least, you know, what, a dozen houses in the project. Some sort of mass project development like this. Again, that's so government can get in the way, or it can get out of the way and let private citizens and organizations, you know, help their community. And that's where I want to be out of the way. If this is going to help you know, cut down $700 a house or whatever it was, I'm in favor of it.
It's less than 1% of the cost of a house.
I know, but everybody, it sends a message, and every little bit helps.
And we already paid $50,000 for this project. We've already put $50,000 into this
Right.
project. And Mr. Raffaelli just walked in now.
Yes, Mr. Raffaelli, we're on your request for the reduction. If you'd like to make a comment.
The county's put in $50,000 in the project of ARPA funds, which is, as you know, federal funds that are due to us in Oceana County. So out of your budget, the county has not put anything. The private developers putting $3.5 million donating $3.5 million of their own money. This county will not attract a developer for housing without this development being built. This is potentially the start of, we're hoping to attract low profit developers to come to Oceana County. So what we're requesting is, we can talk about less than 1%. That's not a correct statistic, Mr. Walker, because we're looking at selling the houses at $135,000, again subsidized by the developer for the individual. So we're looking for everything and anything to bring down that cost of the house. So I apologize, I had my wires crossed. I thought I had to be here at 11. So
No problem.
Literally broke every speed law known to man. So I alone have paid I just paid a bill yesterday to the drain commissioner, for $3,500. That's on top of the $5,000 we've already put forth. So it's just, the county needs to open the doors, and we're not taking away anything from your budgets. That's why we, if you didn't have this development, you wouldn't have that money. So reality is, local government, and being an elected official in a local government office, much lesser office obviously, but in the best township in Oceana County, we need to open the doors for development. And this developer is the largest contributor to the $5.5 million park project. So we have to think, as local government, the larger picture on economic development. And without people and housing is the key statistic that's preventing Oceana County from growing and attracting people, because it's a beautiful county, and loads of people that work in Muskegon or Whitehall would love to live in Oceana County and pay Oceana County taxes and use the facilities here and spend money in the different stores. And I challenge the county commission that you need to start thinking about a broader picture. It would be the same if Shelby Township in our board meetings, we sat there and putting it in proportion and went back and forth for an hour about a $500 invoice, and not think about the larger picture of what we're trying to do. This commission is putting together a housing study, as we speak, or approved a housing study for the county, because there's something wrong. So here's private money coming in, wanting to do something about a problem before you even come up with a statistic, because we've done our own data analysis and we know exactly what needs to happen. And you're not going to find any more examples in other counties of private, non-profit 501(c)(3) developers coming in doing this. You won't. We can talk about Section 9 housing and all that stuff till they're blue in the face. That doesn't bring in tax dollars. Those developments don't bring in anything. Yes, they serve a purpose. I shouldn't say they don't bring anything, and that's harsh and rude. What I mean is they don't bring in economic growth and new people. And there's a reason I would challenge you all statistically in the last census report, which township showed growth? guess?
I couldn't hear you, Mr. Raffaelli.
Statistically, in the last census report that came out, which township in Oceana County showed growth in a declining county? Which one showed growth?
Up until the last one, it's always been Grant.
Okay. The last one showed Shelby Township showing growth. And there's a reason why we're showing growth. It's roads, it's the school village, it's parks, the dog park we just opened. It's that infrastructure, changing our zoning to allow, higher density. It's those things that we do as local governments to attract. We have 20 new permits alone in the last 2 months for new housing because we're open for business. So I would ask that the county be open for business. And I'm happy to answer any questions on the development.
Mr. Raffaelli, I'll respectfully
Yes,
tell
Mr.
you this.
Walker, go ahead.
I'll respectfully tell you this. I cannot support a reduction.
I'm okay with that.
And I'll tell you why.
I don't need to know why unless you want it for the record.
No, I can't.
Okay.
So,
Perfect, thank you. I want
I-
to correct Mr. Walker's statistic at the last meeting. He said 10% of the development would not be paying taxes, meaning they would fall into the poverty. I would respectfully say that one house in all of Shelby falls into the poverty exemption. So statistically, that's a wrong number. That would mean that, I think he said, if my memory serves me correct, in my notes it was 10%. That's not going to happen. I think at best, statistically, based on the data in the county, I don't know exactly what the data is in the county, but one falls in Shelby. You've got to be pretty poor to meet the poverty exemption to be exempt from paying taxes.
What is that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
What is that threshold?
$24,000
I think
or
it's
something like that.
I think the state sets the threshold, and then you as a township have the ability to, make that, change that threshold as long as you don't go from the state's
I
ceiling.
don't remember the exact figures, but I know I've
thought it
done
was
a number.
23.9. I think you're close.
And
Yeah,
very
close.
little assets, like less than
Yeah.
$10,000 or $12,000 of assets. So they can't own a boat and a side by side and a a dune buggy and only make $24,000 and still.
You'd struggle to.
Yeah.
So it would make it hard pressed for somebody to buy a $135,000 house if they make less than $24,000.
They could not buy the house. So chances are that, and I'll remind the commission that the taxes this is going to generate for the county as well as the village. The county and the village are going to be the big winners in the township on a smaller scale. So tax millage rate is quite small. The school's going to be winner. The big winner is going to be the school with the new children. At I think it's just under $9,000 a child towards education, money that they didn't have before. So,
Any other
Can I make a
questions?
comment?
Yes.
I guess I don't know exactly where I stand on the issue yet. I do believe that the very difficult thing in my mind is where do we stop? Where do we draw the line? What qualifies? What doesn't qualify? So when I look at this, I say I have a very difficult time approving one project. Not to disprove the project, but I think a policy that's very well thought out is required to approve, and then if that project falls within that policy, so one case in point. So in Golden Township, there's a specific, I don't know how much detail I should go in here. There's a specific business asking for specific allowances of road use, and it's very beneficial to that one business, and it's not beneficial to anything else. And so then the question is, well, if that's granted, where do you stop? The next business down the road will ask for the same thing, and the business 2 miles down the road will ask for the same thing, and next thing you know, this special use for road use is granted to everybody in the township. And so it's a difficult thing to, where do you stop? And I think if we're going to entertain this idea, it has to be approved by policy and a very, very well thought out policy that sets our criteria and sets our guidelines, not so much approve one project, but approve a policy, and if that project falls into that policy, great. But to, in business, in my own business, I can decide if I want to give a discount to, it doesn't matter who. I don't have to, I answer to myself. But in the county, we answer to the people, and so we have to be very careful about preferential treatment, but we have to, we need to make sure this isn't subjective. And so if we're going to do something like this, we need to have an objective policy that gives us and future boards guidelines. So that's the only way I see moving forward with this.
Mr. Hardy, are you the chairman of this committee? Who's the?
Yeah, I'm chair.
Hardy, chair. Mr. Hardy, can I say another?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Respond.
I'm clearly not the smartest guy in the room, and although, I have a master's degree that took me about a dozen years to do, because I was always horrible at school. I've applied nothing I've learned from my education process to business, but I have a master's degree in common sense, and that's the common sense that I apply to how I run the township. And the other piece that I'm vehemently opposed to is the length of time and policies and procedures that just get in the way of growth, almost like the current federal and state government. It's an analysis paralysis. The situation in my mind is, and I agree with you to a degree, but in this situation it's simple. The golden example is not even close, because this project benefits the greater good as compared to one business. This group has applied for a 501(c) status with the federal government. And I want you to take that into account, that you'll statistically be hard-pressed to get in front of a 501(c) developer ever again as long as you live. But if you do, if you approve this, you've set precedent. That shows that nothing in this program or development is there for profit, for individual gain. This is not about individual gain as compared to that business in Golden. This is about the greater good in our community. So even if you don't have a policy and you're setting precedent, if you approve this, you're setting precedent with a 501(c) developer and with very specific examples of how it's going to benefit. So contrary to you, I absolutely agree with you. Every time I sit in the chair in Shelby, I think, what do the taxpayers want? How do they want me to manage their money? How do they want me to, what infrastructure should we be voting on, etc.? Trust me, I'm methodical and about that process. In fact, I donate the $17,000 salary of the township supervisor back to the taxpayers, because I'm there to make a change and not have monetary gain. And I would suspect I'm the only township supervisor that does that. I would hope that some of you donate your per diems back to the county, because you're not here for money, you're here to make a difference. So from a precedent setting perspective, my common sense dictates that if we were able to prove the 501(c) status, that would be a very good argument if someone came up to you versus a profit developer or something like that you did approve a non-profit, zero profit. It's not even a lot of developers hide behind low profit and things like that, but they have a finance arm where they make a small fortune. It's a racket. Can I tell you, development is a racket, what I've learned. The only group that I've seen that's completely legit, we have an outdoor step, which is Kitty Town Stress Group. We're truly non-profit and focused on low-income housing. So even if you were to vote yes, you still have you have a very good argument to make. And anyone that comes forward to say before, and I agree, you should put together a procedure to say, hey, but don't create. I urge you. This is, I think Phil mentioned it. Mr. Morris mentioned it. This is about showing that the county wants to be part of the solution and not be a barrier to that. Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
Commissioner Erickson.
Two things, and Mr. Raffaelli, thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very much for explaining a 501c3 organization versus a private individual who would like road use. Completely two different animals. This is not the question here. A 501c3 that's created by a group in order to better afford housing is completely different. It's not for profit. This is not a speculator building 30 houses north of Pentwater asking for a break. This is a group that have made this nonprofit to benefit the community. And as Richard had said, $9 grand a kid for Shelby Public Schools, that's pretty good. $130 house is a $1,300 a month payment. So you're not going to have $24,000 median income people coming in with $1,300 a month payments. So even if they were subsidized to some extent, they still have families and children and need services and shop for groceries and utilize all of the benefits that we have here. So it's apples and oranges. I think we've got to look at that, and maybe a procedure for looking into the future is necessary. But I'm looking here, and $53,000 reduction in the fee permits out of $173,000. So we're not giving away the baby with the bath. It's a reduction in the fees.
Probably I didn't communicate my point well, but I certainly wasn't communicating that the Golden Township thing was apples to apples. My point was simply the question of where does it stop? You know, what meets the criteria and what doesn't. And to be very frank, here's if we grant this request, this won't be a headline from John's paper, but the headline from the community will be: the County Board of Commissioners gave preferential treatment to Peterson Farms to build a housing development.
It's not Peterson Farms.
I know it's not. I know it's not. And we in this room know it's not. But there's a Peterson Farms emblem on that shirt, and there's a Peterson Farms emblem on the site plan. And so if we are not very clear of what the criteria is for this decision and how that criteria is met, this will be the County Board of Commissioners gave preferential treatment to Peterson Farms to build a housing development that benefits Peterson Farms. That's not the truth. But that will be the truth on the street, whether we like it or not. Whether we are careful and growth minded, or we create a policy that's very specific that lays out the bullet points that need to be met for this to be granted.
If I may, I think one of the things that would be a limiting factor for authorizing this on future projects is the fact that it is a 501(c)(3), and I think Mr. Raphael is correct. I don't think you're going to find a lot of entities coming in here as a nonprofit group to build housing developments. So if you use the 501(c), as Mr. Erickson said, as a qualifier at that point, also given the size of the project, the benefit to the community and everybody else, I think that by itself is kind of a precursor.
Yep, I agree 100%.
To the regs. So, anyway.
Mr. Hardy, may I?
Yes.
I wear a logo. I'm proud to wear the logo of the people that employ me. I can tell you that Peterson Farms has, first of all, can't be a 501(c)(3). Kind of in creative shell 501(c)(3). That's completely illegal. We would go to jail. That's number one. So the perception of the community is about how this county communicates their decisions correctly. And I donate right now about 30 hours a week of my own time to this development. I'm on the board. I get paid $0 no one else from Peterson Farms is on the board. And to be frank, don't put it in the paper, we're working our rear ends off to get this development done.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have no clue. It's obsession. And I'm on the board because I'm the, I would say in the county, those of you that know me, I've been screaming and yelling at the top of my lungs about affordable housing for about 6 years. When we started building our apartments and realized that it was an issue. It's a statewide issue. It's actually a US-wide issue. So if Peterson Farms is going to get tagged, we get tagged for everything. To be frank, I'm tired of being tagged. I don't go to the Brown Bear because people just look at me like I'm, the worst thing since sliced bread. But that's about how this board communicates their decision, and I'm not going to jail to hide under a 501(c)(3) just for $50,000. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's only on the logo because we used our designers and they put it in there incorrectly. Now it's been changed to the
and I think this is a great plan, and I'm excited about the opportunity. But a policy that we create as part of that communication, that the public is generally distrusting. I'm distrusting of government. So so when a decision comes down like this, we can communicate to the best of our ability. But if we don't have a black and white policy that's been adopted, it's very easy for somebody to discredit whatever message we put out there, and just say, well, that's cronyism. Well, it's not. This is not. And this is, we recognize the need for housing and applaud this effort, and we want to reward that effort, but it's not Peterson Farms. It's a different situation. So you're right, that is very key to our communication, is how that is presented if we move forward with this decision.
Mr. Hardy, if I may, this is not a reward. And I'm not trying to pick on your words, but I just want to be clear here that every dollar we save goes directly to reduction of price of the house. So every dollar.
Mr. Hardy.
Yes.
So Tim, you're spot on as far as the court of public opinion. That's what they're going to think, probably. Not, hopefully not, but probably. The thing is though, I'm just, we have to do what's right, regardless of whatever criticism we're going to face and whatever they're going to say out there. And I know we all, we have integrity in that. We care more about what's right than what the people, what people are going to say. But it's a true reality. You're right. You're absolutely right. And the whole precedence thing too. You're exactly right on that too. And that's why we do need to have a policy in place. We need to set one up. I do think that this would qualify within at least the parameters that I have started creating in the policy. So that's all I have.
Yes, Mr. Erickson.
Personal experience. Back in about 1984, I met a woman, Julia Hager from Walkerville, and that relationship led to the creation of our community foundation, which was the first 501(c)(3) in the county under the affiliation with the Muskegon County Community Foundation. And I was president of that organization. I was a member for about 15 years, and I do believe I have a little background in 501(c)(3)s and the type of people that create these and the reasons for creating these. They're typically done by visionaries that do have a pocketbook. They've got a little clout, and they make things happen for people less fortunate. We have some very, very wonderful people that serve on our Community Foundation board now. Looking forward, we're at about $16 million, and I am certain that Mr. Raffaelli has the understanding of the 501(c)(3) world behind him here. But whatever the public court is gonna say about a decision being made when you bring up 501c3. They're either ignorant or they're not. And if they understand what a 501c3 is created for and look at the benefits of such, then they would probably look more favorably upon working with them.
Mr. Hardy.
Yes, Mr. Walker.
Again, Mr. Raffaelli, thank you for what you've done. We have said a lot about how the developer is not making any money on this. They're not gonna make a profit on it, the developer. That doesn't mean that everybody who's out there is not making a profit on this job. The contractors, the suppliers, the subcontractors, they're not moving all of that dirt down there and not making a profit on what they're doing. There are people who will make a profit on this job. And they have to.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Because I'm about ready to come out of my skin. You want them to make a profit. I'm
Well, they're
using
not gonna be
all
here.
local. The people moving dirt right now is a Shelby company.
How many
Let me,
people bid on the
please,
project?
Mr. Walker, I stayed silent during your discussion. Can I make my point and then you could check with Mr. Respond back. We're using a Shelby company to move dirt, right? It's about a $400,000 contract. Yes, they want to make money and they're going to make money. But how economics works, and then we're using Stovall as the builder, several $1 million. Local Shelby builder. I'm not, by the way, picking on Shelby. I mean, I would use Hart people, but we're trying to keep it as local as possible. From an economic development perspective, you haven't even touched upon that if we're going to spend, let's call it $7 million when the whole development is done with the 84 houses, applying a simple math of 7 times. If you use local people, you do the math. 7 times 7. In spending with people that made money are going to go and shop and get gas and go to the grocery store, and this has a far greater economic development impact to Oceana County. So I'm confused why Mr. Walker would call out those people making money, because they haven't gone on the limb to start a 501(c)(3). They haven't said, hey, let's take my dollars and donate the earth moving. They're not in a position to do that. So we want those people working on that housing to make money. We want them to make lots of money. I want them to, because then their employees will spend the money in the community and reinvest back into the community, and they're all taxpayers in our community, as compared to bringing up a Detroit company or a developer from Grand Rapids, etc., etc. We're taking it a step further that no other development that I can see is doing. We're investing in our community and the people that live and work in our community to work on the development. It doesn't get any better than that. Didn't mean to cut you off, Mr. Walker, but I stood silent when you made your comment. So.
We could go back and forth forever, and we are coming from a different position. We've come from, you can shake your head if you want, Mr.
No, I wasn't shaking my head, Mr.
But
Walker.
the last thing I'm going to say.
Yes, sir.
I bet my phone has rung off the hook more from contractors I worked with and sold with on how this is all going down than anybody else's in this room. So, but it's a good project, Richard. I'm glad it's going on.
Mr. Hardy, yes, that's great. If they want to call and whine about something or how it's going down and you're leaving an impression that's not specific, then I challenge you to give this county a specific feedback. If those guys are calling you on how it's going down, I don't even know what that means, then we can address it at another, sounds like I've taken up a lot of your time, but.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Raffaelli.
Thanks, Mr. Hardy.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Commissioner Morris, 2 items, Great Lakes in-kind and formalization of a broadband work group.
Yeah, so Great Lakes Energy is applying for a Robin grant on our behalf. So is Charter and so is Frontier. Robin grant, the deadline is March 14th, and that's for broadband. They're asking for some sort of commitment from us. Examples would be permitting fee or process reductions, or the deduction of a single point of or the dedication of a single point of contact within the community, which we already have with Tracy anyway. To ensure project timeliness, waiver of certain requirements, a form of matching funds, that would actually be money, or other methods the community can offer support in the project. So that's what actually Charter didn't ask for that, but Great Lakes Energy is. The more involvement from the community, the more points the grant gets. I think you guys are all aware of that. And so does that, you know, ring true with any of you? Would you like to, you know, make an actual offer to Great Lakes Energy's towards them for their application of any of those types of in-kind projects?
Go ahead.
You know, I've been thinking about all of these grants and everything going on, and all of the federal money, the billions of dollars that are coming for broadband in the different communities.
Mm-hmm.
So you are so much more knowledgeable on this than I am. I know how much I pay myself for internet access and broadband. Is there anything in all of these federal billions of dollars that are coming in that state how much those companies can pay? Can charge the consumers, the user, for broadband?
No, but what they do have to what they do have to do as part of the application, from what I understand, is they have to say how much they're going to charge. That's a consideration in whether or not they're going to receive the grant.
Wouldn't it be ironic if we took all of this federal money to extend all of this broadband and the people didn't hook up because they couldn't afford it?
Right. Yeah.
It's possible.
Right.
I see a
In
couple
some
of
cases.
smiles and chuckles coming from the room, but
Well, and
you know,
some don't want it. The truth is, there's some
you know,
addresses people don't want to be hooked to the
you
internet.
know, I personally am in favor of issuing or sending a letter to the utilities that we support their efforts to moving forward.
And we've done that already.
Okay, but financially, where does the money come from? You know, financially, you know, I don't know if we can donate or partnership with a private for-profit corporation and give them any financial assistance. I think there may be a question whether we can do that.
And I would agree with financial assistance, for sure. Any sort of matching for a private organization, yeah, I would agree with that. It's the, you know, not a for-profit company. It's the, you know, example, it would be the permitting fee or process, you know, we would waive the permitting fee, you know, and support that.
Here we go again.
With the profit corporation, yeah.
Yeah, right. True. But this is again, it's, and I'm not saying I'm not 100% advocating for this. I'm just saying this is what they requested, and I told her I would bring this before you. I mean, a single point of contact, I mean, that doesn't cost us a dime, and we already have that.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you say a letter did go in support?
Yeah, Tracy wrote
Tracy
one.
wrote, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And when is their submission?
We would have to do it today, because the submission deadline is the 14th.
My own personal opinion would be, I think we're pretty much done with the letter and with the single point contact.
Mm-hmm.
Because I agree with the matching funding or anything else on a profit-based corporation.
Yep.
But
I would agree. I mean, it's our job as the government to stay out of their way, and do what we can to help, but to partner with a for-profit corporation to do really any of the things on that list other than give them one point of contact, that just kind of violates a number of my personal principles of free enterprise and private industry in relation to government services. So,
anyone else?
Let's
Mr.
talk
Evans?
about for-profit. Let's talk about subsidizing for-profit businesses. We do that with our ambulance We subsidize a private industry with our ambulance millage and our dollars that we spend.
We
buy a
wouldn't if the
service
people didn't
from them.
approve the millage.
Well, beyond that, the problem we're having right now is the inter-hospital transfers. We're subsidizing a private company to make inter-hospital transfers between two for-profit entities. So we're muddying a lot of water here right now, talking about 501c3s and talking about private industry and everything else, but as a body of commissioners, we went with life, and we spend our millage dollars on a private entity for the services that they provide.
Oceana EMS did transfers as well.
That was our ambulance company. It was not a for-profit, it was government-owned.
Still a service that was paid for by the taxpayers.
What happens when a millage doesn't pass for the next ambulance?
We don't have ambulance service in Oceana County. Unless life decides that it's solvent for them to stay.
If I may, Chair, my point isn't to bring up that conversation, though. My point is to just, they asked for it.
Right.
And so whatever we're willing to do, whether it's the one point of contact. So how about this? I'll make a motion during the board meeting that we, as a board, write a letter of support for both Great Lakes Charter and Great Lakes Energy. That includes that we dedicate a single point of contact for them to communicate with. Okay, so I'll do that then.
Okay.
You ready for my next one? The other
Yes.
one? Okay, so as far as our broadband group that we've been meeting, workforce or work group, there's some benefit to actually formalizing it, that the county board itself approves and formalizes that we're going to have an official work group for broadband research and, I don't know, development. I don't know if that's the right word, but to be a partner with the ISPs and then appoint the chairperson for that, or the key contact, maybe the key board contact, which has been me, for that purpose. You good with that?
What does this do? What?
It gets us more points in a grant. If you have just a loose group versus an official board-approved, county board-approved group, they grade those things. There's a point system. I don't know how. I'm not in. I don't know exactly how it works, but that was a request by a couple different ISPs.
Yes.
Who would you have for that single point of contact? Who are you going to
It has been Tracy. And that's it, but it could be Curtis Burdett. He's actually taking over some of the role.
I think Curtis would do a very good job at that.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Just a matter of, we don't really have control over what he does, just because he's, not our employee. Although he's already gladly taken over some of the responsibilities that we had at our last broadband meeting. The roadmap, the responsibilities, the action steps from the roadmap.
Why don't we formally ask
Curtis?
the right place?
Or
the right
it'll be
group?
OCEA.
Yeah, why don't we formally ask them to allow us to have Curtis as a single point of contact.
Okay.
The board that he works
Yeah.
for. Why don't we ask them if they'll do that?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
If they'll do that, then we can approve that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So my motion then would be that we are going to create an official broadband group with Phil Morris as the key liaison from the county board. Okay.
And we're going to establish a single point of contact, but at this time, we're going to ask that be the Economic Development Group, be Mr. Burnett.
Thank you.
Great. Sorry, scribbling notes here. Ms. Becker, consideration to approve the remonumentation agreement for Noah Penn and Alex Altmeyer.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Randy Hepworth, our county surveyor, has requested that the 2 contracts for Noah Penn and Alex Altmeyer be approved for the 2023 remonumentation project in the county for the surveying plans in regards to that project.
Any questions?
Is it boilerplate?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's
They have
an
been on
annual thing.
previously.
Mhm.
This is just kind of a renewal of
That's what I
the
thought.
annual contract.
We authorized 2022 in October.
I thought, okay.
So now we're trying to do it ahead of time before the year is over.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And again, Ms. Becker, consideration to approve resolution 2305, the intergovernmental agreement between Greenwood Township, Oceana County to manage the floodplain development of the National Flood Insurance Program.
Yes, thank you. Greenwood Township currently does not participate in the National Floodplain Insurance Program. And in order to do that, they need the board to have this inter agreement so that our building inspection department can do inspections authorizing building on basically flood areas so that the people can get insurance. So they have approved it at the township level. They are asking for approval at the county level.
Any discussion?
And if I may?
Yes.
Without this agreement, people cannot get flood insurance.
Right.
We need to approve it to be part of it.
And I'm going to keep picking on you here. I'm sorry.
I have a list on it.
Ms. Becker, again, consideration to designate the financial institutions for the deposit and investment of Oceana County funds as provided by the county treasurer, 2023-38.
Yes, Ms. Mary Lou Phillips, County Treasurer, has provided the board with a list of institutions in which she would like to continue to invest or hold our financials. And the list was provided, and she's asking for consideration of the board to approve that.
Any discussion? All right, then we'll move on again. Ms. Becker, consideration of budget adjustments for the processing of the workforce development grant and for correction of the remonumentation budget 2023-39.
Thank you. The workforce development grant had an invoice come in the amount of $85,000. This grant is a reimbursement grant, so as soon as we pay it, we can submit it to ASAP and get our money back. The amount for $85,000 is the cost of the invoice that came through, so we are just asking for some budget amendments in the county budget to be able to pay that and then receive the money in.
And that invoice was for?
The workforce development grant.
Engineering work that the workforce development had done for the brownfield?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's
For the brownfield, yeah.
Oh, was it?
No.
Yeah,
No, this is workforce development. So this
right.
is
Okay,
the study that's being done in the county.
It's being done, yeah.
Currently in asking different entities and the people what they are wanting for talent coming into the county. What are employers looking for education-wise, skill-wise?
Post-secondary.
Post-secondary, in order to hire basically the best of the best and to fulfill their needs in
And
the
to keep
county.
our kids here, to
Mhm.
train them here, yeah.
good.
The remonumentation grant, Mr. Hodges provided an update to the monies for this grant. So the increase in our revenue line item is just the difference of what we anticipated in the original grant, and then the update in expenditures is the actual difference in what we anticipated. There's a little bit of difference because we just didn't realize that revenues didn't match our expenditures, but this will match
That's
revenues to expenditures and equal what the grant is expected for 2023.
All right, moving on. Ms. Becker again. Consideration to reappoint Mr. Jim Prince and appoint Mr. Robert Walker to the Community Mental Health Board for a term of 3 years, 2023-40.
Yes, Mr. Prince's term expires at the end of March, and he provided a letter requesting that he continue on the Community Mental Health Board. This is a 3-year term, so it would begin April 1st and end March 31st, 2026.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I have concerns about the Mr. Walker fellow that's written here. No. Kidding.
Have you been talking to my wife?
Okay. Moving on again.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
This is one of those things that we talked about during the appointment to committees that we wanted to bring in-house. You know, that's a lot of money that goes to there. We did not have a commissioner on that board recently, and we wanted to bring that into house. So that's what that's all about.
Ms. Becker, again, I'm going to combine these administrators' review for selected claims for payment, post and current 2023-35, and administrators' report.
Payments greater than 1,000 were provided, and I'm wondering if there's any questions on any of the payments that went out on the report of claims for the administrator's office.
I'll just make one comment there. Under the ARPA money, we approved computers and docking stations for the Sheriff's Department, and those are all operational now, correct? I bumped into the install crew at one of the fire departments the other week or two ago, and they had a whole fleet of police cars there installing those, so those are in service now, so that's good news.
Yeah.
I believe we're paying our last invoice tomorrow on that.
Good.
So should be wrapping that one up. Ms. Byard, County Administrator Byard provided a County Administrator's report for you all to review. Just wondering if you had any questions or follow-up on that.
I'm guessing not. All right. Moving on. Any public comment this time for Finance and Administration Committee?
All right, please. You want to go first?
Oh.
Thanks for moderating back there.
You will want to go first. Oh, I don't know if I like that sound. Crystal Township. I was on the Affordable Housing Committee at the Grand Rapids Home Builders Association. I guess I have a couple questions. Who is the developer in the 501? Do we know that? And did we make special considerations? Do you get involved in the specs on that house? And I only bring that up because I believe the International Building Code is under review right now of a cardboard sheathing that is being used around the United States that is junk on affordable houses. So if we've not reviewed that, for a few $100s more you get a true sheathing product on a home. I guess my concern would be in those people that I represent in Crystal, if it's our tax dollars going to primarily support the people in Shelby. I know they're doing a great thing. We do need affordable housing. That's something I specialized at. But I never asked for concession on the inspection. And if you do that, do you then get less of an inspection? And I think that's monumentally important. Not that people do shoddy work, but sometimes if the inspections aren't done in a proper way, what do you end up with in 10 years?
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Can I explain?
Absolutely, go.
Our inspectors are contract inspectors. They get 55% of the fee permit for their services. We retain 45% of it for our administrative services and our overhead. It's 45% that they want waived, not the inspector's part.
Okay.
So,
I know in the past, historically, a lot of the inspectors worked on commission. And those days probably are gone, I hope.
Gone.
Because a lot of, in 08, as we all know, there was a little recession and a lot of inspectors went away. So, thank you.
They're actually independent contractors.
Right.
Yeah. Do we know the 501c group? 501(c), is that the right term?
501c3. Yeah.
Thank you. Are they indeed an outside firm, somebody here from the county, or is it a group of investors that want to help support Shelby?
It's the founders of Peterson Farms.
Could be perceived as self-serving. Thank you very much.
my turn.
Well, as you're aware, the county is going through a 5-year plan review right now with the West Michigan Regional Shoreline Development Commission. And we recently had some of the beginning of the survey requirements are coming back to us. So last Thursday we sat in the room and were able to review, I believe, 90 responses we have from all over the county. The number one issue is housing, there's no doubt about it. And I'm really glad to see somebody taking the initiative in the form of building a development like has been proposed. But I do want to make sure that you understand that you already have a 501c3 developer that you're dealing business with now, and that's Dogwood Development. They put, I believe, 20, I have nothing to do with Dogwood Development. I don't know, I know Kitty, but I know nothing about how they operate. But I know they've done about $23 million worth of housing in Oceana County already, and they are a true 501c3. So for Richard to stand up here and say there's no other developer in a 501c3 frame that's going to come before you, that's not true. They're already here. They've been here for quite a while. So secondarily, the opportunity to address these issues go forward, of course, but we have other things that are going to be built in the public sense. Then you have the Crystal Valley Dam situation, the park upgrade. We're in the process of doing a Black Lake. We have hired a landscape architect recently, and she's presenting to the Parks Commission what the future could be for Black Lake. There's going to be some building involved in that. There's also going to be potentially a new bathroom shower facility at Black Lake that's going to require plumbing and all these other things. So I would certainly ask the board to consider some of these public projects that are true public projects through the county to have those fees waived for that type of thing if that's going to be the case. So I'll go a little step further. I was on the Community Foundation board for 9 years. I was probably one of the people that pushed the change to have Oceana go on its own. I was a huge advocate. I saw the opportunity to see what we could do on our own instead of under the guise of Muskegon. So I was on the board when we wrote the 501c3, when we went through the attorney. It's an IRS document is what it is. It's a way for people to put money into a fund or into the foundation in that case, and they can use it then as a tax deduction. So I'm not saying that this is a tax deduction reason. It could be conceived that way. I've also been involved in 2 other 501c3s that are truly used for tax deduction purposes. The Tom Kirk music program up in Hart, that's a 501c3 that I was involved with at that time, and also Memorial Nature Preserve, which is an educational 501c3. So under the guise of the IRS, you do have certain criteria you have to meet, and you have to have your board items in order and so on. But simply speaking, it's a great opportunity for the community to expand, and the Community Foundation has done really well under that direction and that opportunity. So anyway, that's it. I also would like to point out Stacy Becker. Stacy is so helpful to us in the Planning Commission, the County Parks Commission. I can't imagine what we could do, how we would do what we do without having her and her staff. So kudos to Miss Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Yes.
Seems like fun. Everyone else is doing it. James Kelly, District Director, MSU Extension. I did want to share some excitement today. We have the Asparagus Day event happening down in New Era. We have about 140 farmers from around the region learning the latest and greatest research related to the asparagus industry. I just sat through a half-hour fascinating session about cold storage research for asparagus to see if they can extend the market for asparagus. So we have researchers from campus, from Canada, research reports from Spain, all over the world happening right here in Oceana County, which is pretty exciting. So we'll report more on that later. The other piece, just wasn't planning on speaking on this, but I was at the Newaygo County Board of Commissioners meeting yesterday, and I thought this might be interesting for you to know that they approved a $1 million contribution out of their ARPA funds to go into a housing kind of development incentive fund to be held by the Fremont Area Community Foundation, who was going to match it with $500,000. So I have a $1.5 million fund from inception that will go towards helping with issues that I think you're working through right now. So a potential developer, whether they be non-profit, whether they be for-profit, could seek some assistance through this fund to deal with permit fee reductions or whatever the need was. Understanding that housing needs are huge across the state, that is a mechanism that they are using to try and draw more investment into Newaygo County. So I just share that because that may be worthy of some further conversation with your own foundation. And you have a little bit of ARPA money left, I think, here. But anyway, appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
I forgot to point out one thing, and the number 2 thing on the survey that we're seeing is that the improvement of our parks is really another thing the public's calling for. So housing number 1, parks number 2. Yay.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we will adjourn the Finance and Administration Committee and take a short recess. Big break.
Is that, oh, the